Unfrosted, directed by Jerry Seinfeld, stars Jerry Seinfeld, Melissa McCarthy, Hugh Grant, among many others. The film shows a time when milk and cereal ruled breakfast. A fierce corporate battle begins over a revolutionary new pastry. I seen a single trailer for this movie a few months ago, then almost forgot about it. But the thought that its release was coming was always in the back of my mind. Then out of nowhere, Netflix kind of just silently released the movie onto their platform, probably because deep down they're embarrassed of spending a lot of money on this thing. Jerry Seinfeld himself is really bad in this movie. Like, he is really bad in this movie. This is his own movie, and he obviously wrote and directed it, and yet somehow he feels horribly miscast in this thing. From the way the film goes on and how he acts in the movie, it feels like something Tim Allen would have done 20 years ago. Most of the time, whenever he's on screen, it looks like he's delivering every line as if it's his first take and they never bothered to do another one. Obviously, I'm aware of Seinfeld's tone of voice and how he pronounces certain words, but my god, there are points in this thing where his voice genuinely gets pretty fucking grating. Melissa McCarthy, shockingly, also isn't very good here either. This is just another movie to add to the long list of comedies that she's done where she's just so incredibly unfunny. This could, in fairness, mainly be down to the writing. However, if this is the case, then I don't know why. Besides money, of course. She chooses projects with such bad comedy, but then again, humor is subjective. For all I know, she was laughing her ass off at the script. However, I feel like the only person who finds this movie funny is Jerry Seinfeld himself. Speaking of adding on roles, Hugh Grant is in this too. He plays an actor in the movie who plays the mascot for Tony the Tiger, the mascot for Frosted Flakes. The guy is just having fun with his career at this point in his life. Like, I get he's an old man, so of course he doesn't give a shit anymore. That's why he keeps doing projects where he can look like a jackass. He was literally a shitty looking CGI Oompa Loompa before this movie. For his character in this movie, the only joke they really have is that he wants to be taken seriously as an actor, but at the same time, he's fucking Tony the Tiger, which of course is a joke you've seen tons of times before, and it's also just not funny here. There are these two child actors in the movie who kinda act as a way for the actual Pop-Tart to get made. They give input on how it should taste and what it should be called. I've expressed before that I don't like child actors, but holy shit, these two are just extremely grating. Half the time they can't even get their lines out where I can't understand what they're saying. In the credits for the movie, it shows that this is both of their first movie. Hopefully they either get better movies to be in, or they just wait a couple of years, maybe go to acting school so they can be put in better roles in the future. Amy Schumer plays the villain of the movie. She's the head of the rival company that's trying to make their own version of the Pop-Tart before Kellogg's company can. She is, as always, awful in this movie too. She is much less unfunny than Melissa McCarthy, which isn't saying much since in general Amy Schumer is just one of the most unfunniest people on the planet. At least all the jokes she had to tell in this movie weren't stolen from other comedians this time, so you have to give her some props for that. There are cameos galore in this movie. I thought I was watching a Marvel movie at one point. Most that just make you feel bad for the actors that are in it. I guess it's comforting that they at least at the end of the day got paid, but I'm not sure if it's entirely worth it when you're in a movie like this. One cameo I was really shocked and disappointed to see was of Dean Norris of Breaking Bad fame, but then I realized him doing this movie isn't nearly as bad as the type of shit he's meant to say on the app Cameo. There's a certain actor that plays the president in this movie, and I'm actually not going to spoil who plays him, as I can't for the life of me remember if he's in the trailer or not, but when you see him, it's definitely a shock, and it also doesn't really make sense. I think the fact that this actor is playing the president is the joke in itself. Jerry must have thought, hey, if it worked for Pixels, surely it will work for us. So what about the other aspects of the movie? Well, for one, the actual look of the movie in itself looks like complete shit. The lighting in every scene of this movie is so flat. It's one of those movies where big studios will just light their movies. Like, there's a good few modern Marvel movies that have this similar lighting, so if you can imagine that, you can know what I'm talking about. It's basically shot like a 90-minute SNL sketch. In fairness, that's what the whole movie does feel like. I think another reason the lighting is this insulting is because it's meant to emulate the look of a commercial, because again, that is what this movie is. It's one big 90-minute commercial for not just Pop-Tarts, but basically Kellogg's as a whole. They literally stop the movie for three characters to eat their bowls of cereal, and it's the most blatant point in the movie where it looks like a commercial. Essentially, the best way to describe this movie is it's another shot at the product biopic, which we're seeing quite a lot of in recent years. Surprisingly, a lot of these movies, besides being made to essentially either to sell the products or be a retrospective of the products, and Jerry Seinfeld thought it would be the genius idea to dumb this idea down and basically make a kids movie version of the product biopic. On top of this, the film is entirely satirical, and since I don't care enough about foods to do research about them, I don't know if they managed to put any actual facts in the movie at all. The movie hones in on absurd and surrealistic humor, and instead of it being clever, or subversive, or actually funny, it just relies on being lol random for the sake of random, and never for a second is actually funny. I genuinely mean it when I say I didn't laugh at a single joke in this whole movie, which is a shame because the way the film is phrased and the concept of how serious the race between two companies to make a product being compared to the seriousness of the space race is in theory a funny concept, but the movie doesn't really do anything beyond that, and it doesn't do anything funny with it beyond you having that thought in mind. A more competent writer definitely could have made this concept a lot more interesting. Maybe even actually funny. I think the only thing this movie has going for it is the fact that it's going to be this year's Flaming Hot. That was a product biopic movie where a lot of it wasn't actually true either, and managed to get an Oscar nomination, all because it had an original song during the end credits. Unfrosted also has an original song during its end credits. The song itself is awful, but I wouldn't be surprised if it got an Oscar nomination for original song as well, and if it did, I fear this will end up being a trend for a few years where these mediocre or even bad biopics will be made just for them to slap on a song at the end of the movie in hopes it gets eyed by the Academy. Overall, Unfrosted just completely falls flat. There's ideas here that could have worked if it was made by better people. I guess it doesn't help when you consider the fact that in reality, Jerry Seinfeld is a piece of shit. He's anti-Palestine and supports Israel in their ongoing attacks in the country. Now, I know I never really go into politics with these reviews because movies are, of course, supposed to be a form of escapism, but my god, when the director and the star is like this, then it is something that needs to be addressed. I also find it pretty funny how Seinfeld recently said that the left and political correctness is killing comedy during the press release for a comedy film where I didn't laugh at a single joke. Good job, Jerry. I'm giving Unfrosted 1.5 stars. It is incredibly unfunny, horribly acted, really flat looking, and just fails on so many levels of filmmaking as a whole. The sentiment of making a big deal out of such a small product is again, in theory, a funny idea, and I'm a firm believer that if it was helmed by anyone else, we could have gotten a good movie out of this. But instead, we get such a bland, stale, incoherent mess of a movie that no one will watch in the sludge of all the other shit Netflix has to offer.